Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to share some thoughts and theories I have for the 5th and final season of You. Obviously, this is going to involve spoilers of Season 4, so if you have not seen all of Season 4, because this will include You Season 4 Part 2 spoilers, if you haven't seen that, then don't watch this. I don't want to ruin anything for you, but, you know. So obviously, I'm also going to bring in some of the theories I had going into the Season 4 finale. Considering how Season 4 played out, it definitely felt like we were setting up a new chapter for Joe, but also the final chapter. Because Joe's in a very, and I talked about this in my review, a very unique position that he's never really been in before. Yes, Joe has been, his self-awareness of who and what he is has always been in a small extent. Like, I think you got that in Season 2, but he always still viewed himself as like, oh, I'm the tragic hero, I'm the good guy, when he's not. This is the first time that Joe's ever fully embraced what he is. He's fully embraced his darkness, as we see with the whole Reese situation. And now he's kind of embraced who he is, and we're going to see a Joe like we've never seen before. A Joe that's embraced, like, well, if I have issues, I mean, I have other ways of resolving them now because I have Kate by my side, and it comes with her large fortune of, like, together we can do a lot. Now, what that necessarily means, once again, we don't know, but it means, hey, if there's any issues, I can find other means of resolving them. Murder's the quickest and easiest way to go about it now, and that's a tool in his belt that he was super reluctant to pull the trigger on that before. Not as much now, so I get the feeling Season 5 could be, we see the most bodies we've ever seen dropped, potentially. I mean, because at least Joe, it seemed like, hey, he was on a new path in Season 4, he wasn't the one dropping as many bodies. Well, now I found out, yes, he was, in his, like, fugue-like state. So one of the big theories I had going into, wondering in going into Season 5, if there was going to be one, which now we know there is, was, would Marianne play a role in any shape or form, considering she's the only person, I mean, except for Nadia, who knows Joe for what he really is. So I doubt we're going to see any of the group from Season 4, like, because they're all, you know, we got confirmation about where their stories ended up heading in their direction, so it's just going to be Kate and Joe. But the interesting thing is they are back in New York, so that does leave Joe open for some other stuff, but we'll get to that in a second. But my biggest question was, like, well, could Marianne, like, end up reappearing because it's like, oh, Joe can't get away with it. Yes, I'm back with my family and everything. Would she threaten that peace she has now, at least being like, well, because Joe also doesn't know she's alive anymore. Now, if he does find out, you know, she might be worried, like, he needs to be taken out because if I don't, he'll find out I'm still alive. But do you want to take that risk? You know, someone else might reach out to her, because Season 5 could be the culmination of everyone, like, every storyline converging into one, because it's like everyone connected to Joe in some shape or form on the opposite sides of them. Those connected to Beck, those connected to Love, those connected to everyone they were in their neighborhood in Season 3. Once again, the party crew that he was around in Season 4 will probably won't, but, like, those other 3 seasons, those group maybe join with Marianne. Like, someone could be orchestrating a massive attack against Joe, and it could be like every ghost from his past haunting him. And we got that in Season 4 with him seeing Beck and Love again, which those are 2 threads that could easily get pulled on, considering the fact is we know that Love's dad was investigating whether or not Joe was still alive, and, like, obviously that got brushed away last season, but that could come back, especially now that Joe's in the forefront now, that it's like, yeah, he's back, because he's got his name as Joe Goldberg back, so now it's like, it opens him up to a lot of those things of, like, well, what about this, what about this, what about that? Obviously, he even said, like, yeah, I had the power now with Kate to, like, wash all that away. So once again, it's like going up against such a powerful force. Would Marianne risk it, especially now she's back with her daughter? It's like, hey, I'm just going to disappear. He thinks I'm dead. I'm going to leave it at that. Or could it be a thing of someone powerful, like Love's father, starts piecing everything together? It's kind of, if you're caught with The Blacklist, if you're watching the show The Blacklist and you're watching its 10th and final season, which is currently airing, I'm kind of expecting Joe could potentially be in a situation that Red is in right now. If you know, you know. You know, so I think that would be such a fascinating kind of element there. Kind of like fully all his ghosts coming back to haunt him, if especially this is going to be the end, because that also leads to the big question of, well, would Joe survive this? It's like, you kind of want to be like, no, he won't. He he will die, and he should die because, you know, Joe has gotten away with everything, whether it's, you know, everything across the entire show. He's always gotten away with it in some shape or form. He has now the means and resources to have that happen over and over and over again. So that is a big question, because we've seen that recently in a lot of shows where, like, the people who need their comeuppance do get their comeuppance of, like, oh yeah, you've been a bad guy, so you finally get yours by the end of the series type of situation. So we'll see whether or not that ends up being the case for Joe or not. But I can almost also see it being a thing of, it seems like it, but in actuality he never gets his comeuppance. I don't know. Especially because I'm curious where the whole him and Kate thing are going to end up. Are they going to be very like Bonnie and Clyde next season? Because once again, she knows who he is, what he's done. It's meant to be a thing of, hey, let's keep the good in each other going. Like, we both are capable of bad, but hey, we can do. And I talked about it. It's a little bit of a different parallel with the love thing, because he saw love as, hey, she's a monster. I need to protect my son from her, so I'm going to go along with a lot of stuff. I didn't love her anymore. But now Joe is, yeah, he loves Kate, and he's also embracing more about who he is. He recognizes who he is now. So that kind of, which now I'm speaking of it, like, it does open up the question about the Henry situation. Does Joe try and get Henry back now? I don't know. Or does he feel like his son's better off without him? Another thing I wondered too was, because we introduced a storyline element that his mom went off and started a new family after leaving him behind. Will his siblings come up in the story? Because he was like fairly young when he found out about his mom. So they could also, they're going to younger than Joe, but probably going to be like, you know, maybe 10 years or so younger than him at most or something like that. So you could definitely see that. But I can't remember if he had one or two siblings, how many he had. So I could definitely see that coming back now that his name is out there and is in such a big way connected with Kate. People that Joe gets associated with in this season, will it end up being like kind of similar to the rich and powerful people he got introduced to, well, you know, was around for season 4. But to be fair, he's in another echelon now. These are people that Kate can rub necks with, or is what I'm trying to say. So this is going to be a new echelon of people, a new echelon of like these high, powerful people in the world, who will also most likely be the most psychopathic people, and Joe will kind of be at home with them. And once again, like, whether or not that ever leads to him butting heads with Kate, because he has this issue before, time and time again, it's always been like, he's like, no matter what I do, it's never enough. But once again, Kate knows what he is, embraces what he is. I mean, Love kind of saw him for what he was, but it was kind of like we were just not the right match. But maybe Kate will be. Who knows? Like, I'm also curious, like, will they just pick up immediately where season 4 left off? Will we get some time skip of Joe's been at this for a while? With the Nadia, I brought her up for a little bit, but it's like, yeah, this Nadia thing. She's in jail right now. She hasn't spoken a word. So considering Joe's position, like, she doesn't really have much she can really do in that. But once again, we don't know if it's all the enemies of Joe get to kind of come together and take him down now that he's out there in the open again. Once again, that it all comes full circle considering he's back in New York, and once again he's got his name again. I also touched on this too in my review. I would love that we get more with the whole Reese thing, but it's like that they can't really do that because the whole point is he's supposed to be able to fully embrace that part of himself, that they're one again. They're not separate entities. It's not like, oh, there's Joe and there's Reese. It's like, no, he's embraced all his darkness. But I think it would be such a neat thing to kind of continue that story element. But it will be taking steps back, considering what it's supposed to signify at the end, with him seeing his reflection as Reese, being like, right, we are one. That side of me isn't dead. It's there, and I fully embraced it. And I know, once again, Joe sees himself for what he really is and what he's able to do with that. Once again, maybe Joe's going to go full like anti-hero, which is weird to say about him considering he's never been the hero, but maybe it's like, oh, I've been the extremely bad psychopathic I've been the psychopathic killer bad guy. Now let me use that for good in a very Dexter way. Once again, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, these are just some of my thoughts. I'd love to get to know yours in the comments down below. Do you agree with anything I've said? Do you disagree? What are some things you want? What are some things you expect to see from the 5th and final season? Do you want Joe to get his comeuppance? Do you want it to end with Joe getting away with everything? Or do you want Joe to die? It could be a combination of your personal feelings of like, no, Joe should die, or even just storytelling purposes, you're like, no, Joe dying would be better, you enjoy that storytelling more, or him getting away you think would fit more storytelling? Or is it just because, hey, he's gotten away with it for 4 seasons, he needs to get Guy? It's you know, it has to happen. So, like I said, I'd love to get to know your thoughts in the comments down below. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.